the inside story on the issues that affect you and your community. This is Local 12 Newsmakers.
Good morning and welcome to Local 12 Newsmakers. I'm Dan Hurley. The consequences of last fall's elections continue to pulse through Columbus and local government. Few things are more central or more important to the mission of the state and local government than education. It is literally our future. And with every area of state government, Governor Kasich is putting his stamp on Ohio's education apparatus. Over the last month, the makeup of the leadership of the State Board of Education was changed. On March the 15th, the Republican chairman of the board was replaced with newly elected Republican Debe Terhar from Green Township here in Hamilton County. Then the superintendent of education was forced by the governor's office into what turned into a tearful resignation, angering a number of members of the Board of Education who believed hiring and firing of the superintendent was their prerogative. I am joined this morning by Debe Terhar. She was elected in November to represent Hamilton and Warren counties, District 4. Ms. Terhar is a former licensed Montessori teacher with a focus on early childhood education and education of children with disabilities. She is the president of the Hamilton County Republican Women's Club. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
First off, let's begin because I got a feeling that a lot of people don't know that much about the State Board of Education. It's 18 people, 11 of you elected from various districts and 8 appointed by the governor, correct?
There are 11, so there are 19 of us.
19,
19
okay.
on the board, correct. Okay. There are 11 elected and
I'm an
8 are appointed.
I can't add.
It's quite all right.
What are the responsibilities? What is the board's charge to do?
We do policy formation for education for Ohio. We take care of the evaluative functions for the state. We deal with teacher licensure and just forming the guidelines that schools follow in Ohio.
Does the board have responsibility over curriculum?
We do, yes. Yes, it's curriculum formation. Right now we're in the process of creating the model curriculum that teachers will be able to go to the website for ODE and pick out a lesson and look at what it has. It has all the elements and the components that they need for a lesson, and they can go and choose that if that's something that they would like to do. Will
this be a mandated that all teachers in the state will be using the same lesson plan?
No. As you know, we are a local control state, and the separate districts are able to choose what they want. This is just a guideline for them. We have national standards that we have adopted, so it goes to the core curriculum, and they can choose those. Now,
the evaluation, you were saying evaluation is key to this.
Right.
Am I correct? My understanding is we're going to move to a different set of tests from what we've been doing because we're switching to a different set of standards?
Correct, that's correct. And they'll be rolling out, I believe it's in 2014, 2015. Okay. So we're in the process of developing the new assessment system.
And have you seen those new standards? Have you seen examples of the new, what's different about them from a teacher or a student's or a parent's point of view? How are they going to experience this as a difference?
Well, the attempt is to make it more rigorous.
Okay.
And that's what our focus is. Let's make sure that our children are prepared for college and they're prepared for the workforce. And we need to set our standards higher and our expectations for our children higher.
What about in the area of financing of schools? Does the state board have a responsibility for schools, as we do with one school system in our region that has serious financial problems? Is that fall back on the board?
The board's responsibility there, it would be to work on anything, if they get into trouble where they would have to have a consolidation of a school district, that's where we would come into play. ODE offers
the Ohio Department of Education.
Yes, the Ohio Department of Education offers the expertise to help them get their house in fiscal order, and that's we oversee the
Governor Kasich has said that there are too many school districts in our state.
Yes.
Is that your view? And what are we going to do if it is?
I'm sorry. I have heard that, and there are numerous states across the nation who do regional sharing of services and regional districts. I don't know what the plan is right now, and I will not take a position on it. I would have to see what the idea is behind everything first.
You were elected in this sort of tumultuous situation here in mid-March.
Right.
How much of a chance did you have to talk, pardon me, with the governor or his assistants as that was developing?
I had, and I don't believe anyone on the board had any knowledge of what the superintendent has stated occurred.
Well, there's two different things. There's one is the change in one of the appointments to the board, one of the members of the board, which allowed Governor Kasich to appoint somebody new, which then that tipped the balance, which allowed you to be elected as president.
Right.
But then there was also the resignation of the superintendent, and that's what you're referring to there, right? You didn't know that ahead of time.
Correct. And I have absolutely no influence on the governor's office for what he would do. So I really wasn't involved at all with anything with appointees.
But wasn't that, as I read the reports, weren't some members of the board saying they thought that was their prerogative, that they should have been involved in the decision to let the superintendent go? I mean,
our responsibility by statute is that we hire and fire the superintendent. That is our responsibility. My impression is that the superintendent met with the governor's people, and she came back under the impression that there were votes that would make it so that she was not going to be superintendent any longer. But she took it upon herself to resign. We didn't ask her to resign.
Well, in her letter, she said to your board, she said specifically, I was informed after meeting with some members of the governor's office, I was informed that if I choose not to create an exit strategy, I would soon be replaced by a majority vote of the State Board of Education.
Wow.
Had you?
Absolutely not.
Had the board discussed this with these people?
No, absolutely not.
So the question really emerges then is, what's the level of independence of the board? Which is not a new question, actually. I mean, this is a question that's gone over several administrations.
Right.
It's not just Governor Kasich, but what is the real political independence of this board?
I believe we are independent. We're independent thinkers. No one is pulling strings. So we are independent. I think when you get a change of administration, it is a natural thing to realize that there may be differences in the way an administration wishes particular things such as education to go. Yeah. And that could be the case. We just had last week in Florida, their state superintendent resigned because of the same.
Well, the same thing on higher education. Fingerhut resigned.
Certainly, certainly.
I mean, I don't quite. From a distance, I don't quite understand why she was so surprised by this, but the point is, obviously, in the midst of all these other changes, this became a real issue for the members of the board.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Republican, but you replaced a Republican.
Right.
The view is, and I'll just put this out there, it is, the way it's being reported is that you're a member of the Tea Party, and therefore that's why you were put in.
That's why I was.
Well, that's why the governor wanted you in and not the former president of the board. Do you agree to that?
No.
No?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I express certain views, and if they align with the majority of the members on the board, it's their prerogative to vote for who they wish.
Are you active with the Tea Party?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay, all right.
Most definitely.
Just clear that up.
I love the Tea Party.
Okay, what about some specific things that the governor has proposed, and that is an increase in the number of vouchers?
Right.
Or do you support that?
Yeah, I personally do. Now, I'm not speaking for the board.
No, and that's I'm asking you only as an elected official.
Yes, I do. I think that the fact that we have inner city schools that are failing, we have parents in those inner city schools who are not able to get their children to a place that provides a better educational opportunity for them. Vouchers will allow them to do that.
The response to that, for people who do not see that, is that this is further undermining the public school system.
I know. I see it differently. I see it as
Did your children go to the public schools or the private schools?
My children went to public schools when they were, my two older children did when they were younger. We moved to England, and they had an education in England, and we moved back here. And for them to make that transition, the best place for them, we put them in a private school.
Same question on the governor's position on increasing the number of charter schools.
Yes.
Are you in favor of that?
Yes. Yes.
Are you in favor of tightening the evaluations of charter schools? I mean, I have to tell you, over the last 10 years on this show, we have done a lot of investigative reports about charter schools that have had terrible records and went on for years. Right. Is there a combination of increased, because charter schools in places like New York and Illinois seem to produce good results. Ohio's charter schools have a very checkered background. Well,
we definitely have to get better at what we do, but I think we do have very strict rules for charter schools right now. If they aren't functioning properly, they're closed. But you look at a lot of our inner city public schools that have been failing for years and years, and they are still in the system. So I think we need to create a balance there and be able to make sure we have the checks and balances necessary to get schools from being failing.
Given the governor's budget, there's going to be a significant cutback in state funds to local schools, which is going to throw it back on the local districts to make cuts, which everybody knows that they've all been preparing for this, but also to probably go to the ballot. I mean, we're looking at maybe half of the districts being on the ballot this fall. What's the role of the the state board that you're now president of in getting those kinds of issues passed?
We don't take a role in getting those passed. We have challenging times ahead of us, very challenging, and the revenue's not there. So, you know, we are a local control state, so that it's up to them.
You live in Green Township.
Yes, I do.
Are you in a part that's in Oak Hills or
yes,
in the city?
Okay. I'm in Oak Hills.
Okay, in Oak Hills. And have you been active in passing levy campaigns there?
No, I have not.
In the past? No?
I have not. I voted for them, but I've not been active in getting them passed.
Okay, so your role, the board's role, is not to come in and have any role with these local schools.
Exactly.
One final area, because I know I had your predecessor from District 4 on the show a number of times, yes. Sam Schlomer,
yes.
Also a Republican,
yes.
And he was very concerned about the integrity of the teaching of science in the curriculum, and particularly around the question of evolution. Where do you stand on that?
I am not going to respond to that. I think that's a red herring. I really do. I'm not even. Okay. I'm not even going to go there.
That's fine. Very good. Well, thank you for being here this morning.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for
Dan.
taking on the state education. As I said in the beginning, it is the future. It is key, and we'll have you back.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks.
If you'd like to gain a statewide perspective on Ohio schools, check out the website of the State Board of Education at www.sboe.ohio.gov. Before you move from Price Hill to Swaziland, you better check with your wife and children. After the break, Steve and Lucienne Driehaus and their daughter Alex talk about joining the Peace Corps.
It's time for me to, work on something different. I'm going back to, where I started in international development, and maybe someday we'll get back into politics. Who knows?
Welcome back. A month ago, we devoted an entire program to the 50th anniversary of the Peace Corps. One of the guests was former Congressman Steve Driehaus, who served in Senegal in 1988 and 89. 10 days ago, he announced he is headed back to the Peace Corps, this time as the director of Swaziland. There he was back in 88, 89. I am joined this morning by Steve, and much more importantly, by his wife, Lucienne, and his daughter, Alex. Whether you work for P&G overseas, as have a number of my good friends, or for the Peace Corps, a job like this is an adventure that will transform the perspective of every member of the family for the rest of their life. Welcome to Newsmakers.
Thank you, Dan.
And Steve, welcome back.
Thanks.
Let's just take care of some of the factual things, then we'll talk to the important people. How long had this been cooking since after the election?
I actually started talking to Peace Corps prior to my leaving office, so it was back in December. Now, I was talking to several people at that time, so we were weighing opportunities and thinking about what we might want to do, and Peace Corps just kind of, kept hanging on and came to the head at some point. And so, but it's a lengthy process. You have to go through a series of interviews, and then you've got to go through health clearances, and you've got to go through security clearances. So we weren't allowed to. We knew about a month ago, I guess, that we were going, but we weren't allowed to say anything.
Right.
So.
And we've got a map of, first off, Africa to help people understand where Swaziland is, and then we have a map of Swaziland itself, and we'll bring those up in a second here. But tell me a little bit about the country as you understand it.
Swaziland is a kingdom surrounded by South Africa with Mozambique on the eastern border. It's about 1.2 million people. It has the highest incidence of HIV and AIDS in the world. It's estimated that about 27% of all adults are infected with HIV or AIDS. It's estimated that about 10,000 households are run by orphans. And so that's one of the biggest challenges. All of the Peace Corps volunteers in the country, there are about 70 or 75 Peace Corps volunteers, they're all working on HIV and AIDS. And there are a lot of other organizations in country as well working on that issue.
Let's be clear. You're going this time, this is a paid position. This is a job. You're not a volunteer in this situation. This is a paid position supervising the work of the volunteers in Swaziland.
Right. So you have volunteers in country, and then you have associate directors who are running the various programs, and then you have the director who oversees the entire Peace Corps program. Okay. So that's what I'll be doing in Swaziland.
Okay. Now, enough of him. Let's talk to the people who count. Lucienne, as this began to bubble up as a real possibility, I mean, obviously you knew that, and any of us who have known Steve know that the whole Peace Corps experience back in the 80s was so important to him.
Yeah.
When did you begin to think that this was serious, and how did you think about it?
Well, when he first brought up going to Swaziland, I said, Swaziland? But the more that we thought about it, the more I looked into it, the more I researched it, I thought, you know what? This would be a fantastic experience for all of us. It would be a time for us to be together as a family. He will be with us all the time. We will be, I just am really looking forward to it. I really am.
And Alex, from your perspective, how did your parents sort of broach this as a possibility? And then what have you been doing to think about this since then?
Well, I don't know, like when they told us originally, it was back in December when they started thinking about it, and I didn't really think it was gonna happen, but I guess now it is.
Just another crazy idea.
Yeah. It's gonna be different, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be an interesting experience.
What are you most, I know your father's mentioned that you and your sister and brother have been doing some research and whatever.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about?
I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward just seeing everything there, because we haven't really been out of the country very much, and I just think it'll be really different and it'll be cool. Yeah.
What are you most worried about?
I think kind of the language. I mean, they speak English, but it'll be difficult to catch on to the Siswati, what they speak usually.
And what's the name of the language?
Siswati.
Okay. Now, I know you speak one African-based language. You don't speak this language.
Yeah, I speak Wolof. It's not at all related to Siswati. And
okay.
So Siswati, it's a Bantu language, and it's going to be, and it's a language that people speak in the villages. It's kind of the native language. English is the official language.
Okay. English is the official language.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you expect to try to learn the language?
Absolutely. Peace Corps has a good language program, and so before we get going, I would like to know the greetings and just some general things so that we can start. But yeah, I think we all expect to be able to speak the language. I think people
really appreciate when you're in their country that you're trying to communicate in you know, their way. So we're going to give it a shot.
Sure. What about the, you know, the basic things that a family needs, one of which is schools? What have you been able to find out about the opportunities for schools for Alex and her sister and brother?
Well, that was definitely a concern. I mean, that was one of the most important things that we were looking at, was there going to be a good opportunity for schools for the kids? And actually, the girls will go to a school where Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu sent their children. It's a fantastic international school. Jack, our son, who's only 8, he'll be going into 4th grade. There is another school that's wonderful, also international, people from all over the world, all over Africa going. So I think that the school opportunities will be great for the kids. So.
And have you looked into the international schools?
Yeah, I've looked at a lot of it, like online, and their academics are really good, and their school is really diverse, and it's just going to be a lot different.
You're a sophomore at Seton High School.
Yeah.
What have your friends said to you? What have your let's start with your friends. What have your friends said when this all began to come out?
Oh, they're not happy about it. They don't want me to leave at all.
Because you'll just be gone?
Yeah.
That's why they're not happy?
Yeah.
Okay. Are they, you know, when one of the things that we were sort of talking about as we came into the studio, there are all of these communication techniques, and my understanding is you love photography. Do you imagine yourself really trying to stay in touch with your friends?
Oh yeah, I'll still get in touch with them through Skype and everything, because everyone at Seton has a laptop, so we'll still be able to communicate really easily. But yeah,
What's the time difference here? Is it about 8
about
hours?
6 hours.
6 hours.
Yeah.
Well, that's not even that much.
No, it's not bad.
Well, that's great. That's really great.
No, I mean, telecommunications have changed rather dramatically, and you know, the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and our ability to communicate with our family here and with our friends here it's relatively easy. And so, you know, we expect that, you know, we'll be keeping a blog of, you know, what's going on, as well as the conditions. You know, what I'm looking forward to is the kids experiencing the international schools and going to school with all these other, you know, children from around the world, but then also seeing, you know, what life is like, you know, seeing the face of AIDS, seeing the face of real poverty, and because it's different than anything you see here. But that's our world, and it's good for everyone to have an understanding of what that is and what that crisis means to families, to kids like themselves, you know, in Southern Africa.
How do you think about that? I mean, it is a country that has this terrible HIV/AIDS situation, but also poverty and just different than us.
Right.
How do you think about it as a mother?
Well, I am looking forward to that too, because I think it's going to be great for our kids to be somewhere where it's not all about what you have. It's about, you know, what you can do for other people, you know, how you can help yourself by helping other people. And I have family in Mexico, so we have, and you know, my family is fine economically in Mexico, but you know, we go to different places and we see people that are not, you know, people that are living in very poor conditions, and so I think it's a great experience. I think, you know, it's all going to be part of their life, and it's going to really contribute to the way that they end up as adults and the kinds of things they want to do. So.
Alex, have you had a chance to travel? Have you traveled to Mexico?
Yeah, we went to Mexico when I was in 6th grade.
Okay. Have you traveled, you know, to other third world countries before?
No, I have not.
So this will really be new
Yeah.
on that level. What have you heard your dad say about his experiences when he was a Peace Corps volunteer? I mean, what has stuck with you about?
There's a lot of stories that he's told us about that, but he really seemed to enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the things that he saw when he was there. Granted, it's going to be a lot different than it was then, just because that was a few years ago.
Yeah, he's old.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. You know, not the Peace Corps, and maybe the Peace Corps has something like this, but Jesuit Volunteer Corps, which does an international 2-year program for volunteers as well. They have a phrase something like, "Give us 2 years and we'll wreck your life," meaning we will change you forever in a good way. And those people who I know who've gone through Jesuit Volunteer Corps or for Peace Corps, it really has shaped their entire life. And I know you're not going as volunteers, you're going but it is because you're going to be in the midst. So it's really going to be wonderful.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
Well, I congratulate Steve, I congratulate you on plunging in, and I really congratulate the rest of the family, and thank you for being here this morning, and stay in touch. Maybe we can do something on Skype sometime.
Absolutely.
When I need a guest on
That's
Friday
right,
morning.
that's right. Yeah, we'll Skype you.
We could just Skype in and see how it goes. Jeez, everybody at Seton's got a laptop with Skype. All right. Whew, the world has changed. Thank you. Thank you for making Newsmakers a part of your Sunday morning. Next week, a report on the state of the American dream. Have a good week.